Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello dear friends, so welcome back to NPTEL online course on logistics and supply chain management. So today we will start discussion on whether we should go for making the products in house or we should outsource it, right. So as the title suggests, make or buy a decision, right. So under this session we will talk about the strategic alliance, what are different options we can go for, and then what will be there if we are talking about the vertical strategic alliance, where we are talking about maybe collaborating with the partners who are working at different stages of the value chain or the supply chain, right, or maybe the horizontal supply partnership where we are acquiring maybe the same players or the competitors in the industry, right. And then we will talk about why we need to go for the strategic alliance, what are the positive and negatives of that. We will talk about then the outsourcing, right, and then we will discuss some of the case studies on that. So before going into this discussion, because now maybe 2 or 3 sessions will spend on this, I will just try to draw the trend line how we will go with this, right. So first is we will talk about the strategic alliance, right, how we are collaborating with the different players in the market, right. First, this is basic concept where we are collaborating with the different stakeholders, and then they will be for exploring different markets, for maybe exploiting the technology, maybe one is having that technology, how we can get the access to that, how we can get the access to the different types of resources, financial resources, technological resources, manpower, skills, all those things, how we can get the access to those resources by strategic alliance. Then we will talk about this make or buy decision, and here we are deciding whether we should go for in-house production or we should outsource this. This should be the next step, right. This is how we will go for, right. And then probably the next session, once it is done, we will try to find out how we can go for strategic sourcing. That means once we have decided that we will go for I am assuming here that we have decided that for this particular operation, for maybe preparing the sub assembly, for maybe warehousing, for maybe transportation, I have decided because this is not my core competency, let us outsource. So once this decision of outsourcing is done here in the second stage, right. So then in the third stage we will define what are the different elements in strategic sourcing, how we can go for that. So strategic sourcing, that means now you need to pick the suppliers, you need to pick the vendors, right. So that means vendor, suppliers, you will find out how many vendors are there, suppliers are there operating in that industry, and then obviously after that you will be going for, because you will not pick all the vendors, you will going for selection based on certain evaluation criteria, right. Once it is done, then you will talk about supplier relationship management. Next step should be supplier relationship management, how we will manage the suppliers. And once you have set up the supplier stakeholders throughout your value chain, your supply chain, the next thing is continuously monitoring them, and then purchasing. Outsourcing is done, then now you will purchase in repetitive orders, you will raise POs against purchase orders against all those vendors, right. So that means how you will do that, purchase orders will be raised based on the vendor rating of the individual vendor. So this is the 7th step we will go for. So maybe 2 or 3 sessions will cover all these 7 perspectives, right? Once vendor is selected, maybe you have selected 4-5 different vendors. So who is going to supply, maybe based on quality, delivery, price, all those things we'll evaluate, and then we'll say this is the top vendor, will allocate the maximum order to this vendor, because we are getting the strategic advantage with that vendor, right? So this is the complete scenario, right? So going through this strategic alliance, this is obviously the legal agreement between 2 or more companies, right, where after deciding that in which area they are going to collaborate, right, and then they will, after deciding that legal entity, they will form maybe the third entity where they were not operating earlier. If we will take the, although there are different scenarios how they are collaborating, but let's take about the example of maybe Hero Honda. So Hero was doing the cycling business, right, non fuel vehicle, 2-wheeler, and then Honda was into that some foreign industry where they were producing bikes and they were selling the bikes, right. Now in India they are exploring the Hero supply chain and how they can utilize that existing supply chain structure, and Hero will utilize the technology of the Honda. So this is how they come up together, and then they went for the third venture, third entity where they were not operating earlier. So this new reason may be as per your new technology, as per new product offering, new market, then also it is new entity, right. So when you are going for strategic alliance, obviously I told you first is you are getting access to new market. Now Hero was only producing cycles, so now they were not going into fuel 2-wheeler market. So after collaborating with Honda, Hero Honda, now they are going for 2-wheeler market which is operated on fuel, right. So then you have shared intellectual property. Hero got the access to Honda technology, Honda got the access to Hero supply chain, infrastructure in that way, technology or whatever resources you are having. So mutual beneficial partnership both way means both are having the win-win situation, where Hero is also expanding the horizon in the Indian market and Honda got the license to penetrate in Indian market. Depending upon strategic alliance, we have 3 options: equity strategic alliance, non-equity strategic alliance and joint venture. So depending upon some factors, what is the project complexity, risk, how you want to mitigate risk, right? Do you want to share the risk throughout the supply chain stakeholders, or you want to keep the risk with you, or do you want to have the complete control over the supply chain or the value chain, or you want that maybe independently your stakeholders are operating, and in that way you don't have the full control over the delivery, over the price, over the quality, over the product offerings. Whenever you are going for new kind of offering or new strategy, you have to collaborate, you have to communicate, you have to develop that trust relationship with the vendors, that yes, now we are going for a new product and this is how we are seeking your role, right. So quickly we will go through these, although this is not related with the directly supply chain, but yes, some financial terms but have implication on the supply chain. Non-strategic alliance, that means minimum resource commitment, right. They will work together for maybe one temporary kind of project, and they in that way they are not diluting their ownership. Company A is having their ownership, B is having their ownership, but they got some temporary project and now they are collaborating on that. So there is no exchange of the ownership, right, but because of the requirement of the projects, maybe 2 different software development companies, they are having some expertise, and for that project you need expertise of both the companies. So in that way, for that particular project they are collaborating, but they are not diluting their ownership. This is the second stage where little higher level of commitment of resources are required, and the ownership is also diluted. One company is acquiring the other company, they are investing, they are acquiring the ownership equity, right. So resource investment will be there in terms of personal, technology. Company might contribute significant financial resources as well, because now you are getting the ownership. Let's take the example, if car manufacturer, there is maybe battery manufacturing company, because now we are talking about electrical vehicles. So maybe car manufacturing wants to expand the capacity, because now there is trend that people will go for maybe more electrical vehicles because of their fuel performance, sustainability measures, all those things, right. So then they need to develop strong vendors. So how they can do that? They can equip their those local vendors who are producing at very low quantity with low maybe quality. So then maybe one vendor is producing with the nickel batteries, other is lithium ion batteries, or maybe lead acid batteries, different kind of. What is your requirement? How you want to come up with that, so that you can ensure that efficiency of the battery and longevity as well, right. So if you are investing into your vendor, maybe in technology or some other resources, that is equity investment, right. Joint venture, the highest level of resource commitment, you can take the example of Maruti Suzuki, right, or any other company, like two pharmaceutical companies, they are coming up together for maybe R&D, manufacturing, distribution for a new kind of drug, right. So that is a kind of joint venture. So dedicated resources where this ownership will be both, they will be owner depending upon how much they are investing into that, right. So they will be maintaining the ownership of that. So these were some of the technical terms how we can go for strategic alliance. Now vertical or horizontal strategic alliance, this is important when we are talking about the value chain or supply chain context. Upstream or downstream, when you are acquiring, when I will start acquiring my suppliers, that is vertical strategic alliance. Or maybe I will strategic alliance sourcing means when you are sourcing some of the value adding activities to your stakeholders, right, at different levels of the supply chain. Different level of the supply chain, maybe raw material production you are outsourcing to someone else, maybe manufacturing you are doing of your own, maybe some sub assemblies you need, you are outsourcing to some third vendor, then maybe warehousing you are outsourcing to some other vendor, transportation third party logistics you are using. So that means different stages, different functions are performed. This is a vertical integration. Horizontal integration is when you are acquiring the same players, maybe one pharmaceutical industry is acquiring other pharmaceutical industry, not the raw material supplier, not the distribution network, not the transportation agency, right. So that is a horizontal strategic alliance, right. So you can just go through, this is how the firm that operate in same stage of the value chain. One transportation agency is acquiring other transportation agency, is a kind of horizontal strategic alliance, right. So you can collaborate in such area like marketing, distribution, or joint production. So if maybe you are distributing, you are having your own distribution network, like let us take the example of Amazon or Flipkart, they are having their own distribution network, but whether they are covering all the pin codes in the country, no, it's not feasible, because maybe far away locations or rural locations where very minimum orders, or maybe people are not placing orders there because there is no access, because your delivery network is not providing. Most of the products you are not selling to those locations, right. As long as you calculate depending upon your how many orders are coming, what is the nature of the product you are buying, quality, variety level, different expectation from the customer from that region, because in crowded regions you can easily manage the customer requirements, but what about the region which are far away? So now you want to promise that we are delivering to all the pin codes. How you can do that? Maybe you can collaborate with the Indian Postal Services who are having access to all the rural locations as well. Maybe the delivery time will be little higher, 10 days, 15 days, or maybe more than that, right. But yes, you are still promising that your product is reaching to the last location, last pin code, right. So that is another way how you can this is horizontal strategic alliance you can go for. Now strategic alliance, domestic or international. Obviously when we are talking about a domestic strategic alliance, we are saying that maybe we want to explore in that particular area which we have not explored earlier, right. Maybe you are a local brand, you are very famous in western region or maybe northern region or eastern region, you want to expand your market. So then you need to go for the domestic strategic alliance with those partners. Maybe you are looking for distribution, you are operating in northern part and you want to distribute your product in the south part. Okay, so how you can do that? You need to go for kind of vertical strategic alliance with that some transportation or distribution network agency who is already operating in the south region. Pooling resources, because we are very small organization, regionally we are working. So if we can collaborate with maybe 2 or 3 different players in the same industry, we can pool the resources, right? And in that way we will be more efficient. How we will be more efficient? Because now earlier we were only one organization, we were producing only 10,000 items. But if I will collaborate with another organization which is producing or maybe having order quantity of maybe around 15,000 units per day, so that means instead of producing 10,000, now collaboratively we can go for producing 25,000 items. That means economies of scale will also be targeted, right? Gain access to complementary resources, because different players having different expertise. So if I am expert in manufacturing, maybe my other collaboration partner, he is very expert in R&D, right? So that means we should go for collaboration. Like Apple, what Apple is doing? Apple is very good with R&D, designing the features and software development part. Apple is not at all producing any product which they are selling. So for production, they know China is the best strategic location as for maintaining the low cost, right? So they are outsourcing manufacturing to majorly China. Now they are looking another strategic partner, India, as another big partner for setting up their manufacturing facilities. International strategic alliance, obviously earlier we were having market access to only local market we were talking about. Why don't we go for overseas market? So then in both way, either we will get more supplies, cheap supplies, quality supplies, and we will get the access to the market as well. So your forward supply chain also there is scope when you are going internationally, reverse supply chain also there is scope, because we can have access to better raw material, right? Avoiding import barriers. So very simple example you might have seen, usually like in Delhi, when they are selling some products, like let's talk about the electrical products, right? So electrical panels or electrical equipments, whatever they are selling. So because Delhi is size wise, geographical size wise very small, right? So but they are having majorly their distribution center. Let us say if some demand is coming from Noida or Gurgaon, so that means the outer skirt means outside of Delhi. Oh, okay, so that is another state. So what they are doing, maybe they are fulfilling the their order, customer order from Delhi only, but billing will be done from that state office, either UP state or Haryana state, because then they will be avoiding some tariffs and import duties kind of things will be there when you are talking about overseas as well. So if you are Apple is producing in China, importing in India, then selling products because now in India also the product Apple product demand is increasing, right? The purchasing power is increasing. So why instead of producing in China and then paying all that import duties and then selling here in India may be costly. They are looking for, because that huge customer potential is there, why don't we produce here only and then we'll sell here only. International synergies also, that way you can maintain, because now internationally you have gone. So if my brand is, if I am bearing something or using some product which is internationally known, obviously you feel comfort, you feel more reliable with the product quality, their safety features and all those things, right? And then you can develop your core competencies, because now I am restricted to what I have been doing since long, right? So this is my R&D is my core competency. I need to develop this further, but let us outsource manufacturing to, like Apple, manufacturing to India and sell in India only, right? So the purpose of outsourcing and strategic alliance, so till now we can understand when we are going for outsourcing, so very basic purpose is enhance your competitiveness. So now Apple is enhancing the competitiveness. Not only Apple, if you talk about your sports industry, shoe, so Nike is another player who is not manufacturing, right? They are also outsourcing. Philips, I always thought about, in India they are not manufacturing any product of their own. What they are doing, they are very good with the R&D, they are very good with the marketing, they are doing that part, and their manufacturing is being completely done by some third party. Their co-manufacturers are there, and Philips have appointed their quality engineers, production engineers, all the this material planning engineers in their co-manufacturer sites, and they are ensuring that quality, standard, quantity, variety, that can be ensured. So in that way, enhanced competitiveness, because you are not good with manufacturing, your manufacturing is outsourced to that partner who is very competitive in that. So that is first point why you are going for that. Improve competency, efficiency and cost effectiveness. Now the one thing is, maybe you are small player, so that much order you are not producing. So if I am also, so per unit cost of producing that order will be higher. So if I'll outsource this to third vendor who is producing maybe for 2-3 different players, so in that way the economies of scale that person can achieve, and then the per unit cost I can reduce that, right? So in that way cost effectiveness will be there, because the example, if we can quote about the restaurant. So what restaurant is doing? Cooking food, and known for their recipe, and I like whatever they are cooking, right? So but because I don't have always time to go there, this very basic example we discussed, so let's collaborate with Swiggy, let's collaborate with Zomato, let's collaborate with other Uber Eats, and then deliver the product or deliver the food to the customers from wherever your demand is coming, right? So I am not going for transportation here. For transportation I am, so if today I am getting 50 orders, I will process that 50 orders and I will pay Swiggy, Zomato their margin for 50 orders. Tomorrow I am getting 500 orders, I will pay for that. So cost efficiency and your total productivity can be improved. Access to new market and customer. So new markets, obviously if you are going overseas, or if you are expanding your market from northern part to southern part or western part or eastern part, so obviously even then you are getting access to the market. Instead of producing for those many products for that north part only, now you can expand that, but expanding that maybe if your manufacturing capacity is not that high and you are not sure about the demand, if you are expanding in other regions, even then you are not sure. So the first decision may be, let us collaborate with some partner who will be manufacturing on our behalf, and we will just market there, we will just distribute there, right? So then you will have access to new market. Foster innovation and learning. When you have 2 or 3 different organizations, you can share your knowledge, your innovation skills, and then in that way you can develop that environment of continuous, like Philips is promoting, right, innovation and you. So that continuous environment of innovation can be ensured, right? Mitigating risk and uncertainty. So when you are collaborating with the strategic partners, like I talked about your restaurant, you are cooking food, but you have outsourced to Zomato. So risk in that way is also lowered if you are not getting enough orders today. So let's take example of this Kharagpur campus only. So when there is classes are going on, so almost 20,000 or more than those people are residing inside the campus, right? But now because vacation time is going on, I don't think more than 2,000 people are there, right? So you just imagine the situation of the restaurants working here, and then when they are dealing the demand from 22,000 students. So it is better to outsource to some delivery partner who can share risk. This is risk, right? Now we are not producing much, we are not delivering much. So this uncertainty you can share. Enhance flexibility and adaptability. So again, when you are sharing resources with the different stakeholders, so in that way your supply chain will be more agile, more responsive, right? Now only 2,000 people are here, so you will be responsible for 2000 people, those many orders you will produce and you will sell, right? But that fixed asset cost is not there, that 500 bikers they are delivering your orders, so that cost you are not carrying, that maybe those people are carrying, or your delivery partner is carrying that cost, right? So quickly we will go through the benefits of adopting outsourcing strategy, right? First is cost saving. Always whenever we are talking about outsourcing, we are talking about how we can save the cost. So very simple example, the title of this session was whether we should go for making in-house or we should outsource it. I'll make you understand with one. This is the very simple reason why always we are trying to go for the outsourcing. This is quantity on the x-axis, and let's say sales revenue on the, or profit on the y-axis. So we have seen there is some fixed asset investment. Whenever you are operating in the market, there is fixed asset, and when we are starting producing that product, there is variable cost as well. So let's say this is total cost, like includes the fixed cost plus variable cost, right? Now when we are producing, let's say 5 units, so this is the cost. When we are producing, let's say 15 units, this is the cost, right? So that means, or maybe sales and revenue will also increase, but the overall profit will be starting from here only. That means when we are selling 5 units, because we have this much fixed investment cost and then variable cost, because we need raw material for 5 products. Let's say 5 car we are manufacturing right now, we need how many? 25 tires. So that cost 25 tires, 25 engines, 25 means, in that way you can calculate all the components, you can multiply by 5, right? Because we need 5 products. But the fixed cost is whatever production facility you have set, whatever fixed asset equipment, the assembly lines you have set, right? So that is your fixed cost. Now you can see this, we can say is a reason which is no profit, means loss reason. As long as you are producing quantity less than this, let's say star, that means you will be in loss. So this is loss reason. But if you have quantity more than that, this is the profit, when you will recover your all cost, your profit will be more than your fixed cost plus variable cost. So this is the very basic concept when you should outsource. Obviously when you are having order less than this quantity, here you should outsource. But you are having quantity more than that, then you should produce in-house, because that many orders you are processing in-house. So there is margin, after that you can make the profit. But it's not only the single criterion you can go for. Then even if you are producing more than that, let's say I am not very good with the packaging and I don't want to go into that, even then I will outsource. I am not good with the transportation. I know if I will do the transportation part, I will be on the profit side, but I am not good with the transportation assets, whatever required, and that software required, and how vehicle routing can be done. So even then I will outsource. So this is a very simple example, you can go through why we are going for that, right? So another benefit is specialized expertise. Let's say I am hospital. Why I am known for providing you the healthcare services, right? But there is very important part of healthcare industry is how you are managing your healthcare waste. So doctors are providing the healthcare services, but it is their responsibility, because that infectious waste is generated from the hospital. But if I am you just imagine, doctors are always engaging their skills how they can manage the waste, and because they are not expert how they can manage the infectious waste. Managing the waste is altogether different industry. Maybe they know some measures how they can protect the environment from the infection, spread of infection, but still we cannot just rely on the hospital. So their main services are providing healthcare services. So let us outsource this waste management process to some third party who is already doing that, right? So that means you will get expertise. Focus on your core competencies. You focus on your core competencies, that how you can in-house all the tests required to monitor the patient health, how you can maintain the patient records, how you can maintain the inventory of the medical equipment. You just focus on your core capabilities. Scalability and flexibility. So I told you, outsourcing, if you can scale down your business, you can scale up your business whenever required. 50 orders you are getting, you deliver 50 orders using Swiggy network. If you need more than that, you get those many, you process those many orders. Efficiency and productivity will be improved because that non-performance area or non-value adding activity sometimes, or maybe where you are not competent, you are outsourcing that, right? So in that way you will be more efficient. Risk will be shared with all the partners, risk related maybe compliance and regulatory. Let's talk about this industry only, healthcare waste. So this waste means, again, so many different agencies are there. World Health Organization is there, then environmental agencies within India who are regulating all these waste, and so many regulations are there. So you need to meet those regulations. So as a doctor, you should focus on treating the patient, or you should focus on how you can meet the regulations. But meeting those regulations is very, very important part. So let us outsource them, so we can share the risk. Enhanced focused on customer satisfaction, because now you are completely focusing on your patients, so you can enhance your proficiency in that. So another limitation, you will lose control when you are going for strategic alliance, you are outsourcing distribution. So waste management you outsource to some other party. So you said within every 24 hours you should take our waste away and treat it. Now sometime he is coming within 24 hours, sometime he is coming 30 hours, 35. Who will keep the track? Even if you are keeping the track of all those activities, but then it is very difficult to push that because many are not there, right? So that way, on quality, timeliness and overall performance, somewhere you are diluting. It's not that you cannot push your vendors, but when you have multiple vendors you can push as well, but still you don't control completely them. Communication and coordination is also very big challenge. Any change you are doing in your manufacturing process, in your product design, services design, you need to collaborate with the partner, because partner has to change the raw material as well, right? And then if overseas partners are there, whether they are ready to change so frequently, so then all barriers will come there, language barrier, cultural barriers. Maybe you are suddenly you were into education industry and suddenly you are going into some liquor industry, let's say, right? You are expanding. So whether your stakeholders will be ready to do that, or they will feel that, right? Because totally two different area. Quality and performance, like I told you, somewhere you don't have the complete control. Dependency for delivery. So if anything goes wrong at the vendor end, delivery will be delayed, right? So then you are more dependent for quality, more dependent for delivery of the product. Otherwise, if any disruption is there, your production line will stop. Obviously, when you are collaborating, you are sharing the secret of your success, secret of your recipe, how you are manufacturing, all those things you are sharing with your stakeholders. So that means that security, confidential things you are sharing with the partners. Hidden cost is also initially, obviously this we are doing outsourcing for reducing the cost, but there is hidden cost, right? Indirect cost. It's not only the cost you are acquiring the raw material. For acquiring the raw material, you are negotiating with the vendors, you are preparing all the contractual documents. Any dispute happens, you need to deal with the disputes as well, right? So that will also carry certain cost. Negative impact on the internal workforce. Let's say if we are doing something here, right, and tomorrow let's say we are recording lectures here, tomorrow NPTEL will outsource this something to some other agency, let's say, right? So then there will be dissonance kind of behavior, that we were doing this, we were doing fairly well with the students, and they were imparting this education to students who are far away from us. They can also get access to that. So that means that dissatisfaction will be there, right? So if you will outsource something to some other partner. So already I discussed make and buy decision. All this is not only these many costs you will consider, what if you will make in-house, and what if you will outsource. So if that cost is less than this, you outsource, loss, you outsource here, right. But at this point, for that particular supplier, it will not be loss, because he is producing for other players. So for us the quantity is less than the Q star, for them this quantity is big enough to produce. So they can minimize the total cost, shipping cost, inventory cost, they can hold that much raw material. Then again, if we will see make and buy decision on another parameter, let us say advantages of making are very high and risk tied to buying very high. So that means when risk is very high, when you are outsourcing, risk of sharing your secret success strategy, so then you will strongly go for making in house. But when it is very low, risk is also very low, advantages are very low, you buy it, outsource it. But somewhere in between, when you are there, so you can this is also possible, maybe in northern you are there, so you can produce there, but in south you are expanding now, in south you can outsource to someone, that also can happen, right. So moderate outsourcing can also be there. So another thing on which you can go for outsourcing, when you need strong control over the product or services what you are offering to the market, then you need you need to make in house, right. So like if I will talk about Zara is known as for fashionable products. So for standard products they are outsourcing to cheaper locations, right, to Asian locations. For fashionable products where they are changing very frequently, they are producing in Europe only, right. So this is very good example, because for fashionable products they are charging high, they want more control over quality, but for big products they are outsourcing to some other vendor where they can cut down the cost. If we will talk about Walmart, we will come here. So if standardized products, if any standardized product is there, if you are selling any standard t-shirt, you are selling those commodity products where you do not have much to control, so you can go for outsourcing in that case. How you can implement a successful make or buy strategy? First you need to, already we discussed whether you should make or buy, what you should make, what you should buy. You need to analyze the cost and expertise, whether you have that expertise, that you prepared very beautiful design, let us say Apple prepared very beautiful design, but that design, can you mature that design, commercialize that design of your own? Because sometimes, because you need to then they are outsourcing to China, right. So then we need to evaluate the quality, right, and then for those quality parameters, whether you need your own control or you can still believe in your stakeholders, your partners, right. Then you need to consider the capacity of the stakeholders, right, and your capacity as well, and what if you need to scale up or scale down the business because of the demand fluctuations. You can go for a kind of pilot survey, case study, right, where maybe you can analyze some other players what they are doing in the market, and then you can go for implementing complete successful strategy. We will just quickly go through couple of cases how they are doing that. Like I told you, Apple very good with your product design, right. So and updating the software, right. So software development part, and they are designing the products in United States, but they are finding the cheap locations in China where they can cut down the production cost. They are investing huge in R&D, but you see they are doing the development part in US, manufacturing in China, again selling products in US, right. So this is the beauty of supply chain, still you are managing the cost. Another very good example, Nike, where they are they are pioneer in designing the products. If you are wearing Nike shoe, the comfort you can feel, right, and they have developed that image over the time with the customers, where they are preferring the Nike shoes, and branding, how they are branding their product. But again they do not have those capabilities to produce that, to commercialize that much quantity, so then again they are outsourcing to some other partner. So again they can leverage the strengths and gain the competitive advantage over their competitors, because manufacturing also they are cutting down the cost and providing the high quality comfort shoe to the customer, right? Because manufacturing they are cutting down the cost, but on designing part they are spending high. Another example is Google. Google is known for as search engine. We are most of the you also cannot track how many times we are googling the things, right? So that means anything you need to know, you are just entering into the Google, right? Even if you want to know some products, even then you will enter. Even if you want to know some healthcare hospitals near to you, so other than search engine, now they are providing so many different platforms. Their main business is not, they are providing almost free products, right? If you are googling something, that is free. Information you are getting is free, right? So if you are checking nearby your hospital, that is also free. If you are using Google Map, is free. How they are making money? They are making money by selling apps, and then the advertisement cost, right? So if I am searching some product on Google, that means I need that product. Now those branding organizations can use this data, can analyze this data, can send me targeted advertisement, and then they can generate the revenue. This is how Google is making revenue. They are selling apps to Play stores, right? So this is another very beautiful example. What they are doing, they are just they have developed that platform where you can search, and whatever you are searching is a kind of information, and that information is valuable for them. So in this session we discussed about the different options of strategic alliance. We discussed how we can go for outsourcing, vertical as well as horizontal outsourcing. We discussed about vertical outsourcing, where we talked about forward integration or backward integration, right? We talked about what are those factors which are forcing us to go for outsourcing. It's not only forcing. If we are producing something we are outsourcing and we are getting higher margins, why don't we go for that, right? So and then we are getting the expertise, right? So as a doctor, you are all completely involved in treating the patient. Why don't you outsource if you are testing part is also there? So they have outsourced all the labs, pathologies, right? So and then waste management is another key area which requires attention, but then because we are limited to providing the healthcare services, let us outsource this to third party who can manage this more efficiently, because they will charge us for only the waste today we are generating. Tomorrow if we are generating higher waste, they will charge less higher. Day after tomorrow again, if waste is reduced, so they will charge for that only. So in that way we can maintain the economies of scale, we can scale up, scale down the business, right? So this is all about how we can go for outsourcing, right? In the next session we will discuss about how we can develop the strategic relationship with the partners, and how we can evaluate the partners and pick those selected partners. So that's all. These are some of the references you can go for. Thank you very much.